Skill migration is huge, and it's an area that the government likes. Australia believe that skill migration is the future of the immigration system because they identify some skill shortages within the community, and they think that people who have those skills from overseas can come in to make a difference. So skill migration basically means that you have to have a skill within the list that Australian government have published. There are two of those lists. There is the short list, just to make it easier, and there is a long list. The short list is for skills that are critically in short supply, that the government is desperate to fill. For example, you have nurses, you have doctors, you have engineers, and you have maybe boiler makers and things like that. That will be mainly under this short list. So that is very, very important. So if you happen to fall within those lists, then you can apply independently. Then there is a longer list whereby you have so many other occupations, but not every conceivable occupation, just so many other occupations. So these occupations, if you have the support of a state government, for example, or you have the support of an Australian relative. So if you have an Australian citizen as a brother or sister or auntie or uncle or even nephew, they can then sponsor you as well. So that is skill migration. However, in order to be able to get a visa under skill migration, the person needs to be, first and foremost, satisfy the age requirement, satisfy the English requirement, satisfy the skills requirement. Age requirement means that they need to be less than 50 years. So if they are 20 to 25, they get certain number of points. If they are 35 to 35, they get certain number of points. The older they are, the lesser their points. And then English, they also need to meet the English requirements. For example, they need to score like 6.0 in the IELTS test, which is one of the tests that they have accredited. There are other tests like occupational English test. So there are 4 components to the IELTS test, for example. There is the reading, there is the writing, there is the speaking, and there is the listening. All those test categories need to be passed to the level of at least 6 out of 9 in each. So, but if you get 6 across all of those 4 bands, you don't get any points. You need to demonstrate you have superior English skills. For example, you have to get like 7, 7, 7, 7. Or you may even need to demonstrate that you have proficient English, whereby you need to get 8, 8, 8, 8. So English skills, depending on the occupation, may need you to have only 6, or may need you to have only 7, or may need you to even have 8. So that is that. Then there is also the skill requirement. Your qualifications from overseas need to be assessed by the skills assessing authority. So, for example, if you are an engineer, you will need to have your skills assessed by the Engineers Australia. There is a body called Engineers Australia. These are gazetted bodies by the government that have been designated to do the assessment for those skills. If you are a computer scientist, you need to go through the Australian Computer Society, who are the body that will assess your skills. If they say your skills are assessed as positive, that means you've met the skills requirement. If your age is about 30, that means you've met the age requirement. If you've scored 6.0 in the English test, that means you've met that. And then there is something that is called the expression of interest, skill select. The skill select is very important. It's a new system that has been introduced by the department about 3 years ago, and it's meant that anybody can apply through the skill select system. What it means is that if you have passed your English, if you have got your skills assessed, and if your age is good, make an expression, express your interest under the skill select, whereby you say, I like to have this visa. So this is a database that the government has put out there. Once you have put in your details onto the skill select database, the government will have a look at it and see whether you have met those requirements, and they can then invite you to apply. Once they have invited you to apply, then you can then make an application under the general skill migration. So the skill select, general skill migration, as well as skill migration are completely intertwined. So there is a lot of steps that you have to take before you can apply on that skill migration. You need to have your skills assessed. You need to have your English. If you are not from an English-speaking country, you need to have your English done, and you need to have make sure that your work experience is relevant to the occupation that you have nominated. So having said all this, it appears to me that it's not a very straightforward system. That is why it's important to use someone who is accredited, somebody who is licensed, somebody who is experienced, that can take you through all the system and that can guide you on a step-by-step basis. There is also the requirement to satisfy what is called public interest criteria, that is the health check and the police check. So anybody coming to Australia must meet the health requirement and must also be of good character. So all those things are part and parcel of the requirements.